Here at Under the Arch, we would like to express that all views are our own. Despite being recorded from Wembley Stadium, what we say in the podcast will in no way reflect the views of the FA or anybody at Wembley Stadium. If you do happen to have any problems with what is mentioned in the podcast, please feel free to contact us at underarchpod@gmail.com. Thank you.
Conversation and discussion from the home of football.
I'm Jak Richardson.
And I'm Will Taylor. And this is Under the Arch. This week we talk Bury's readmission to the Football League.
What makes a good captain?
Is this the end for English dynasties in football?
We talk about what's going on at Wembley.
We also do our 6 to pick and 6 to miss from this week's fantasy football.
And finally we give an update on our competition on our social media. Alright, hello everyone and welcome to the first episode of Series 1 of Under the Arch podcast. I'm so excited to be here. Will, what about you?
Absolutely, mate. I'm delighted to be here. Obviously we've got Wembley Stadium behind us. It's a fantastic setting to be and a fantastic place to be with you, mate. How are you getting on anyway?
Yeah, really good. Just been really looking forward to getting this going. Sort of been the talk of what we've been doing all week, really.
Absolutely,
hasn't it?
yeah.
We've been really
100%.
looking forward to the first episode going out, being recording with it, and looking forward to getting started. I think we should.
Without further ado, yeah, absolutely.
So as we said, we're talking about Bury this week. Obviously, that news has come out recently in terms of their readmission into the Football League after
lack of readmission.
Yeah, lack of readmission. You're right. Just your thoughts and feelings on that, really.
I suppose, obviously, first and foremost, it was widely rejected by the rest of the Football League teams. 70 out of 71 teams rejected it, and rightly so, in my opinion. I think there's no reason we should be giving Bury special treatment. It was, I don't agree that Steve Dale should have been allowed in the first place, and that's a conversation about the fit and proper persons test we need to have. But obviously, it's one that will be had in due course. I think it's really difficult to say whether or not Bury should have been let back in from a fan's perspective, because it's football's described as a family, isn't it? And you sort of see if one member of a family is struggling, then the rest help him out. But I think on this occasion, it wasn't to be. I have to say, actually, I saw an article. Martin Samuel in the Daily Mail made a great point. He said, the football family. A lot of people saying the football family has let Bury down, but actually Bury has let down the football family. They've not fulfilled their fixtures. Yeah. They'd be taking a place out of a National League club, and as a fan of a National League club, that's not something I agree with.
You're right.
Personally.
I think definitely, as sad as it is, it's not just about Bury, unfortunately. I mean, I know it seems like it is, but there is a massive knock-on effect. As you say, it affects fixtures. There's teams that were going to be playing them.
Absolutely,
there's a lot of logistics involved in football. Obviously, there's got to be hotels, travel sorted out. Fans have got to sort out their travel. There might have been fans booking days off work to go and watch their team play against 100%. Bury, as well as Bury fans as well, of course. But even for those opposition teams and fans. And as you say, it can affect the National League.
League Two.
It affects League Two. It affects also League One, of course. It could have been a lot worse had it happened in Bolton too. That was very close to happening. Luckily that didn't happen, although it was still a bit of a wake-up call, definitely. You're right. It is not just they have let down everyone else. It seems harsh to say that, but at the end of the day, rules are rules, and you're right. I don't think they do deserve any special treatment or respect.
Absolutely not. You look at Hereford and Chester, which is also what Martin Samuel referenced in his article. Yeah. They didn't get readmitted. They had to start as a Phoenix club, and Aldershot, who you mentioned before as well. They didn't get any special treatment. They had to start again, so I don't really see why Bury have to. A point I do actually want to ask you about that we've spoke about is what do the EFL need to do more in terms of ownership and letting people run clubs?
I think for me it's such a grey area, because in terms of the fit and proper persons test, it's not too difficult to pass in a way if you've got the money and you sort of, Steve Dale wasn't probably fit and proper for it.
No, he wasn't. No, I don't think he was. No.
But yet he still, as a businessman, he still got past it. Yeah. And the problem is they can't be rejecting too many people for it. They can't make too many adjustments to that, because they could flag someone up who actually might have worked wonders for a football club. Yeah. Just because maybe at previous businesses they didn't do so. You just don't know. It's a whole other avenue to go down.
Exactly.
So I think in terms of that, it is difficult for the EFL to do anything. I think for me, the only rule that I can imagine having an effect is something that I've thought about and spoken to you about it off air, is I feel like there should be, if you're taking over a football club, there should be a sort of deposit paid.
I think this is a brilliant idea, I really do.
Say, for example, you're spending let's say £2 million, you've taken over a football club. I think £100,000, £200,000, it could be, depending on the football club, depending on what you're paying, and it'll differ, should be set aside as a sort of deposit in a pot where if you do leave the club in turmoil, you say, the EFL say, well, sorry, you've got to cut your losses if you're going to do this to the club.
I'd argue it should be more than a few £100,000.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, but just something to keep a club. I don't think it should be too high because then a club might go, oh, hang on, we can keep going for a little while on this. But I think it should be enough for a club to just stay running for a sustained period of time, just in that turnover period where they get a new owner.
Yeah, they're looking for a new owner that Bury didn't have the luxury of.
But it doesn't affect them too much because this happened during the football season.
Also, another question I had to offer, which I found bizarre. So they were facing administration. They got kicked out of the league. Do you think that decision should have been in Steve Dale's hands, or should that decision have been taken out of his hands due to the situation the club were in?
I think it's so difficult. I think because who else's hands can it be in, really?
Well, the EFL would be my only argument.
It's such a grey area because there's rules to be followed. You know, there are rules around it all, and he hasn't done his job properly. I don't think. What can the EFL actually do? Yeah. What is there for them to do? And that being said, if they did help Bury out any more than what could have been, than what had happened, is that unfair on everyone else? If Bury then got special treatment for a mistake that is ultimately their fault? I know there's so many staff within the club where it's not their fault, but at the end of the day, and as unfortunate as it is, the EFL can't give them too much help because it's their mistake.
No. Well, I mean, it was really interesting. I heard a very abrupt argument between Stephen Dawson, who's the Bury captain, and Steve Dale, live on air, and that was extraordinary to hear the conflict of what you couldn't even work out what was true because Dawson was saying he hadn't been paid, Dale was saying he had paid him or he paid him half or something. And it's just like, you've got to have a bit of respect for these people. They've still got bills to pay. I think Dawson ended up losing his house in the end, so it's just not on, I don't think, not for me anyway. I think something needed to be done because people lost a lot.
Definitely. It is. That's the thing. It is such a shame for everyone else involved, but there's only so much that can be done.
Absolutely. Touching on Stephen Dawson, who is a captain, I suppose we could move on to our next discussion, which is what makes a good captain. I think he was a very good captain for Bury, incidentally, actually. But we've had a lot of
in
captain-based news, haven't we?
You don't often get captain-based news, but in recent weeks we have had, especially very recently, we have had some big ones. We've had
not great ones either.
No, not great. I'd probably say it's all negative, to be honest.
Yeah, it is all negative.
Unfortunately,
well, it depends how you look at some of it.
It's. I think the biggest talking point in terms of captains, Richard Keogh.
It has to be Richard Keogh, and well, not just Richard Keogh. I know he was the. It's him that's out for so long.
It's not just him that's made. No,
but no. I think as a captain, he is the biggest talking point. I think, what is it? 15 months he's out for.
He's not only he's done both. He's done the ACL and what was it?
LCL? Something like that. Something like MCL. It is MCL. Yeah. So I mean, that is obviously the under the circumstances, it's horrendous. I mean, what are your views on that? How does he come back from that? Does he come back from that?
Well, I think for starters, what happened? Obviously, for those that don't know, there was obviously the incident where him and some fellow teammates went out drinking, and they ended up crashing a very expensive car.
A very, very expensive car.
Which is where Richard Keogh got injured. So
lucky to be alive, all of them, to be totally
honest.
Yeah,
well, the thing is, my view on it is, in terms of the situation itself, is terrible no matter who it is. What has happened is unacceptable. You cannot drink alcohol and go out and drive. Rules are put in place for a reason. They have put innocent people at risk.
Absolutely. My biggest issue with it is just that they rejected the idea. They rejected the club giving them lifts home. People came out at ridiculous hours in the morning to say, right, enough's enough. Come home, get in the car, come home. This was, from what I hear, about 2 o'clock in the morning, so they'd had their fun. This was very late. And they said, right, come on, you've had enough, let's go home. And they went, no. So they still chose to get in their car then and drive. And just
any normal person can just think, you know what, I'm going out tonight, let's organise a taxi home.
Exactly, but they knew what they were doing. Yeah, they've got a responsibility. They've got a responsibility, and they absolutely ruined it.
It's terrible what they've done. Some of them, have kids and stuff. Just say, I know it was early hours of the morning, but they're in a car which they're not fully in control of. They ended up crashing it, luckily not into any people or anyone's property, but just say they do crash into someone. Just if that's their family member, they've ruined someone's life.
Well, regardless, yeah, exactly.
And if that's anyone else, not a football player, there is serious repercussions.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing. I think, regardless of how you look at it, they're footballers and they've got a responsibility. And to be honest, I think they are all just a disgrace. I think they all hang their heads in shame. But it's a horrible week for Derby Football Club. And if I was Mel Morris and Mel Morris, who I know is a very strong character, I don't think he'll have those players around that club.
No, definitely not. And it is disappointing in terms of Richard Keogh because as the captain, it is his team is his responsibility. When you're a captain, it's not just about 90 minutes on the pitch. You're the captain in a training ground, in a changing room. Even out and about in daily life, that is your team. That is a group of individuals that you are in charge of. That trust has been put into you to nurture those people. There's young players there for them to look up to you, for you to lead them, and that's in all walks of life. So
absolutely.
When they're, especially as a team outing as well, they are still his responsibility. He is still the leader of those people, and he has allowed that to happen. And he's come off worse, physically as well as the captain. It's going to end up coming on him very heavily. I think this could be the end of his career, which is a shame because he's got
12 months left on his contract.
He's at 15.
Not many clubs will sign that. He's not had the best of luck here, has he?
No, he hasn't. He has lost, was it 5 playoff finals?
I think it's 5 playoff finals. Yeah, I mean, the most recent obviously being not that long ago.
So what do you make of that? Obviously, as a captain, does that make 5 playoff finals lost?
For me, I think this is an interesting one. But for me, I think a captain's a winner. I think there's not many captains you look at that you think, oh well, they lost that many finals, but they're still a great captain. You look at your great captains, you look at your Terrys, your Gerrards, people like that. They're winners, serial winners. Captains have to be winners. What makes a good captain? First and foremost, a winner. For me, I think that's what makes a captain. I think you've got to be able to win. Else, what's the point?
Yeah, I'd say you're about right there. But then at the end of the day, I disagree in a sense that he did lead them to the finals. And obviously, getting to the playoff finals involves a lot of work. It's not an easy league to do.
No, it's not. It's not.
And not all. I think the difference is a captain doesn't have to be a serial winner because not all clubs have that luxury.
Yeah, but they should be.
Not everyone reaches finals. When you reach 5,
winning things here, obviously, and we've had some fantastic occasions here over the last few years.
Really good, yeah.
We've had obviously, FA Cup finals, everything. And it's fair to say, the times that, since Wembley's been ready anyway, that we've had Man United win trophies, we've had City win trophies, we've had Chelsea win trophies, Arsenal win trophies. And I'm just thinking since the end of Manchester United's dynasty, because that's what we're talking about here, the end of football in dynasties. Since the end of that dynasty, do you think we will see another one? So it was 92 to 2012. Yeah. This is my question. I think... Personally, this is the end of football in dynasties. And I'll explain why. I think the gap now is not, even though between Liverpool and City and the gap to the rest is huge. Yeah. For me, it's not. It's just, I just don't see it as conceivable that I still think in 1992, with all due respect to the Premier League teams, the gap was bigger between Man United and the rest. I really do. I think over those 20 years, just you had your sort of light sparks from your Chelseas and your Arsenals won a few, and then City came up towards the end. No one dominated like that over the last 20 years. 20 years, this is a long time. And before that, it was Liverpool. Alex Ferguson knocked Liverpool off their perch. I mean, I understand what City are doing and what they're creating. But is it a dynasty? It could be a dynasty, but is it a dynasty if you're just chucking billions of pounds at it and you're not building up from the bottom? That's my question. Is it the end of dynasties as we know them?
For me, it's probably. I think it's a change in atmosphere. I think it's moving on from. I'm not saying I don't think they're over, but I think we're going to have to look at it a bit more from a different angle because you say it's not about chucking billions at it, and you're right. I don't think that's necessarily the right way to go about things, but unfortunately, that's the way it is now. Even clubs at the bottom of the pile have got a lot of money. Look at how much Aston Villa spent over the summer. Granted, they went off through the playoffs, so you did get money in that. But at the end of the day, everyone has the opportunity to throw money at it now. You have clubs, again, from low down in the league, even below the Premier League, that they're getting bought by very, very wealthy owners because it's a good opportunity for them. So I think it's going to be very difficult now to have a dynasty the same way that Man United did.
Okay.
You know, they had an excellent group, you know, excellent young core. You know, they had the class of '92.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then with that success, there is still commercial success there. They brought players in along the way. Not too many, you know. They had a few record signings here and there, you know.
Yeah.
But
I think they made their money back in
they more than made their money back. Yeah, they had a lot of big sales as well. You know, obviously Cristiano Ronaldo at the time was unbelievable. 80 million now it seems like pocket. It's nothing really, but at the time,
when you say Pogba went for 89,
I know, but at the time that was when Ronaldo went, that was insane.
It was an inconceivable amount of money at the time, wasn't it?
I don't think we'll have anything like that. I think Man City have the potential with the team they've got now, the squad they've got now, to create something special. Whether they will or not, you know,
but if
time will tell.
Guardiola leaves, is that a dynasty? Because it's chopping and changing.
I wouldn't say so much. I think it's definitely an era.
Yeah.
It depends how much longer he stays for. If he stays for the next, if he stays until, let's say, 2027, let's say, just as a ballpark.
Yeah, a long time.
Because that would have been how long for him? That's about 15 years for him.
Yeah, about 15 years. Yeah,
if he wins another, I'd say 6 Premier Leagues in that time, maybe 5. FA Cups, League Cups, would you consider that?
Well, without a Champions League, no.
No, but this is English dynasties.
No, I know we're talking about English dynasties, but I think a vital part of English dynasties is European football.
So Liverpool won the most recent Champions League. They was in the final the year before that. Yeah. If they continue this serial run of finals and wins in the Champions League, what is that a dynasty?
Yeah.
Without winning the Premier League.
Yeah. But
it's not the other way around. No. This is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but if you can continuously, I mean, the Champions League is the pinnacle of football. Not just European football. The Champions League is the pinnacle of football. And if they're getting in Champions League final and winning say the next Champions Leagues, they win 7 of them. Yeah, that's a dynasty, because that would make them one of the most decorated teams in, probably, if not the most decorated team in the history of football.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
The Premier League, as much as Liverpool do want to win it, you know, European, it's that one step above.
It is, you're right. It is the pinnacle of football, but at the end, it's a whole different structure as well. Obviously, it's the league compared to a knockout competition. So Man City win the next 10 Premier Leagues, for example. Yeah. Liverpool win the next 10 Champions Leagues. Is that 2 dynasties there?
That's 2 separate.
There's only one of them.
Well, that's a really interesting point, because it's 2 dynasties in the same era.
Is that another change? Is that not 2 different separate dynasties? Is that English football?
Yeah, exactly.
Is that,
exactly.
Yeah.
I see. The thing is, I think you're right. I think maybe I was wrong in saying Liverpool winning so many Champions League will be a dynasty, because actually, maybe that's just how football's going. Maybe I genuinely believe this. I know City did the domestic treble. Obviously, had some fantastic times here last year. I don't think you will see a domestic treble for a long time. A European treble for a long time, including the Champions League. I think it'll be a long time before we see that, because I don't think anyone can keep up with the pace of the Premier League, which is incredibly hard. When you've got teams like Sheffield United coming up who are competing like they are, you know, I think that's testament to it all. You know, and then you've got the FA Cup, which, in all fairness, is probably the easiest out of the lot, because it's not taken as seriously as it should be.
I do genuinely. And you come in later than other teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that's maybe not taken as seriously. And perhaps that's the easiest one. The Champions League as well as the Premier League. You know, I genuinely believe that, you know, in that sort of January period, there were a few eyes on the Champions when Liverpool was slipping up. Obviously, drawing away to West Ham was a big moment. I genuinely believe it was that sort of thing they had, even though the Champions League round of 16 hadn't started. I think that's what their eyes were on, and I think that's why they slipped up.
Yeah, no, I think you're right there. I think it is definitely the same treble that Man United won in '99. It will be a long time before we see that again, because that was an unbelievable achievement, and I think that's why they're so highly regarded. Had they just won the domestic treble like City did,
that's what I mean. That's why I think that's part of the dynasty.
I think my final point, and I want to leave this with the viewers as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it such a bad thing if it's the end of dynasties?
No, not at all.
Is it?
No.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think it's obviously it makes for more competitive viewing, but it also, although the teams are pushed more to compete with each other, it also means we don't have that team. Do you know what I mean? Like you look back at that United team of '99 and it was special, and you look back at those Liverpool teams in the 80s that were really special. You know, you look back at all these special teams, and although they might compete and they might do things well, what do they actually have in the history books? You know, a domestic treble is pretty much as good as you're going to get. It's not a domestic treble, sorry. You know, the treble including the Champions League.
The treble.
Yeah, the treble. I mean, you can't take anything away from what City did last year. It was remarkable. To win all three in English football was remarkable. Yeah. So I think that's a massive part of it. But yeah, absolutely. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, no, I do want to leave that with you because I think I don't think it is such a bad thing. But
no, I don't think it is either.
Yeah, please let us know.
Yeah, let us know.
Whatever.
Yeah, tweet us at @UnderArchPod or get down in the comments.
Yeah, lovely.
Right, moving on to I believe what's going on here.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so obviously we're at Wembley.
Yeah.
As you can see, what have we got coming up here? So we've got the NFL coming soon.
We have actually.
At the end of October, yeah. First game here is the Cincinnati Bengals versus the LA Rams.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not massively into NFL. I can't sit here and pretend I know what we're talking about.
Yeah, well, I think it's quite interesting actually.
I think the market side of it is really interesting.
It's very interesting, and I think the first thing that comes to mind when it comes to England is like, American football, it's not even football, it's hand egg. Yeah, you know?
Yeah, I'm guilty of saying that a few times myself.
That's something we've discussed, off air a lot of times, and I think it's right. However, I do want to leave you this one fun fact that I learned. We don't like it when they call it soccer, right?
Hate it.
Yeah, and I have done a long time. It's an English word, British word.
You're joking.
Yeah, no, it's not. It derives from the association football. Yeah. They didn't give it a new name. They actually.
So I've been going at American people for ages for calling it soccer. Yeah, and it's our fault.
It's actually. It's from association football. Wow. Yeah, which is an incredible fact. But I sort of want to push it at the back of my mind and forget. Because
don't say it too loudly because the FA are just up there. So, but no, that's
no, it's crazy, isn't it? But it is what it is. They can carry on calling it American football, and I'll have to.
I mean, it's not football. The only thing I don't get with the NFL, and like I said, I think it's so interesting that they're tapping into this British market because. And like you said, we said we've been here on an event day, haven't we?
It's honestly insane.
It's packed. It is packed, isn't it? It's ridiculous. It's just absolutely packed to the rafters in Wembley. You can't move, you can't go anywhere. It's ridiculous.
Words cannot describe quite how busy it was, and I was not expecting it at all.
No, it's not. It wasn't even as busy as that for the FA Cup.
When Spurs were here, when it's the FA Cup.
I don't think it was as busy as the FA Cup. I think it was busier than the FA Cup final.
Yeah, I think it was as well. It was. There was people here. People had travelled from America and not gone to the game. They just stayed outside the stadium. That is insane.
Yeah, exactly. That's sort of. So I find that side of it massively interesting. But I just sort of think, that I don't know. I think it's a really interesting subject to talk about. But what do you think about the NFL?
I mean, I think it's interesting. I don't mind them coming over here and doing these international games. I think it's quite good. It's good for the exposure of the sport because. It's a sport that's just played in America. Yeah. And I know it's called American football, but I would quite like it to be an international game.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'd like to think that this could actually be the starting point.
But they call themselves the world champions at the Super Bowl, don't they? I don't get that because
it's very pretentious.
But the thing I don't get is it's the National Football League. That's what the NFL stands for. Yes. Yeah. National Football League. So surely they're the national champions if they win the NFL.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
I think it's obviously they've got a lot of success when they've come over.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
I don't think that's bad at all. I think it's obviously good for us. It brings people in. Yeah. Got no problem with it at all. I just would love for it to spur on. I'd love for it to be played in England.
Yeah, why don't we have a London team?
Honestly, I think it would be great. Why don't we have a London team going over to America? Yeah,
exactly. It was spoke about, wasn't it, about the Fulham owner buying Wembley, but obviously that didn't come to fruition for whatever reason. But I think that's really interesting. I think the NFL has a lot to offer, and it'll be. Whatever happens, regardless, it's the Bengals v the Rams. Like you said, Rams obviously recently a few years ago moved back to LA, so that's quite interesting. But they always put on a spectacle. It's never just about the game.
No, it's
never been about the game. It's always about what's going on alongside it, half time, all that sort of stuff.
I think everything around NFL is in a way almost more popular than the NFL. The advertising, the performances. One thing that's massive in NFL is their fantasy football in NFL is unbelievable. Have you ever seen it?
Yeah,
it's so complicated. But they love it. They have they really get into it, don't they? And I know we get into it for the Premier League in England, and we will get onto that later in the show. But they really, really like it.
Properly go for it. Yeah, I mean the thing is,
the squads are huge.
Yeah,
they've got a defensive and an attacking side.
I don't get it.
It's unbelievable, and the stats are insane. But I do really respect, as athletes, most football players. You've got people out here that they're 6'6", they're absolutely huge. They're 250 plus pounds, and they run 40 yards in 4 seconds. Like they're insane. Yeah, they're freaks of nature. But I think it is brilliant. I think it's a good spectacle to have.
Right, absolutely, it's all about the spectacle. And I think you come into what is, for me, regardless of what you say, in Europe anyway. I know there's a lot of special places that we're actually going to be going over the next few months around the world. You know, like Melbourne, for example. But I think pound for pound, this is the best.
Yeah, this
stadium.
is the home of
football
and I'd say sport.
I think of sport as well. I think it's just unbelievable here, and as I was saying, we're very lucky to be here. But so you did just touch on the fantasy football, didn't you?
Yeah. So moving away from NFL fantasy and onto Premier League, obviously. Yeah. What we're here for. Just going to give you sort of our 6 to pick and 6 to miss in this week's fantasy football.
Yeah. So 3 each, obviously.
Yeah, it's going to be 3 apiece. What are your thoughts? Who would you?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's important to say how much we enjoy fantasy football. Anyway, I think it's really good. So obviously, just to go over the format, it's going to be 3 players each, 3 to pick and 3 to miss for this week's games. We'll talk you through why. We'll talk you through, anyone anyone else who you might have thought about. So without further ado, do you want to start with your first pick?
Yeah, I'll kick things off. So it's going to be one of your more premium players, but I think you need to get him in now, and that is going to be Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, and I'll tell you why. He's an incredible goal scoring form in a team that's kind of struggling in terms of the size of club they are. 17 goals in his last 17 games. He's got a lovely run of fixtures coming up. I think now will be the time to get him in because his price I imagine it will go up, not by a lot, because it can't go up by much more, but it probably will. Now might be the time that if you haven't already, definitely get him into your side. What about you? Your first pick?
So my first pick, I'm going to have to look down to my pad. I do apologise. I've got Timo Pukki. They've got, I believe they've got Villa at home this weekend, Norwich. Villa not impressed me at all so far this season. They've really not. I just think they've spent all this money. I hate to say doing a Fulham, but it looks a little bit like it to me. Timo Pukki, fantastic value for money. He's not very expensive. I know his price has gone up since he started.
But considering his goal scoring, he's actually still relatively
he is still relatively
priced,
cheap. Yeah. So I think Pukki's a great shout. He's guaranteed to score. If you put a chance, give him half a chance. Pukki puts it away. I think he's fantastic. I backed the Finnish man today.
Well, sticking with Norwich, actually. Bit of a rogue addition from me, but I'm actually going for Emiliano Buendia at Norwich.
Okay.
He's their 3rd highest scorer in Fantasy League.
Okay.
Still very cheap.
That's a great
He's sub 6 million, I think at times even sub 5 million.
Wow, okay.
He's their highest chance creator, which I was actually shocked to find out. I know he has been very impressive whenever I've watched him, but I always just assumed Cantwell would be
my shout.
And because of that, his price has gone up, and he's actually underperformed in recent weeks. Yeah. I think for a snide little 5 million player, he might be worth getting in, because again,
like Villa, like you say,
they've got Aston Villa. I think he might be, in terms of chance creation, he can nip in with a few assists. Not obviously prolific in front of goal. He hasn't got loads of goals, but I think he can be a real point scorer for that low price. If you get out a few of your expensive midfielders, and
absolutely. My I think that's brilliant. Very much expect Norwich to go on and win against Villa on Saturday, but stranger things have happened. They beat Man City, for example. Yeah. So you just don't know. My second pick is Callum Robinson of Sheffield United. Bit of a rogue pick again, not necessarily what you'd go for, but we're not about picking the high money players here. We want to try and get you the best value for money and the most points possible. Sheffield United have Watford. Watford, what a terrible start to the season they've had. I don't think Sanchez Flores is going to turn things around. I thought it was a stupid appointment at the time, and I stand by it. I very much fancy them to go down this season. I know that it might be early days to say they've only got 2 points, and for me, it just doesn't look likely. Since Sheffield United have been promoted, Callum Robinson has been outstanding. A lot of people said maybe he's not going to work. It's another player coming up from the Championship. I'm telling you, that's the way to do things now. Don't go and buy players from abroad. The Championship and the Premiership, the gap is closing. That's the way to do things.
Massively.
Callum Robinson will be fantastic this season. He might be the reason that Sheffield United stay in the Premier League. I think he's that good. I think he'll do a job against Watford.
it is away from home, but I think he'll do it. If Watford are going to try and attack him, Callum Robinson on the break is fantastic. So yeah, he's my choice for number 2.
Right, so my third choice, I've actually had a bit of a change of heart for this one. Yeah.
I thought I knew, I'd put you on a bit of
originally I wasn't going to have him in my team. This is Riyad Mahrez. Okay. Now, Man City...
You were very much against it.
I was very much against it. I was very much against it. He was in my miss list. And then I thought about it again. And actually, he did miss a few games at the start of the season. Right. However, since he's been back, he's actually impressed so much. I think he's actually going to take Bernardo Silva's spot. I was going to actually put Bernardo Silva in my team this week, but I've swapped it over. I don't think he'll get the place. I think Mahrez will start. He's been very impressive recently, created a lot of chances, and I actually think he will be the one. Bernardo Silva was the most important player in Pep's plans and Pep's team. I think that's changing now. He's really impressed recently, and I think now might be...
Can I challenge that?
Yeah, you can,
I just think putting any attacking players from City in your starting lineup, despite all the goals they score, is a mistake. And hear me out, because you don't know what's happening. There's probably 3 different ways they can go. Like, realistic, 3 different lineups they could start in the wing. So you put all your eggs in one basket and captain Sterling. What then? He doesn't start. Like, I think you might have done that a couple of weeks ago, actually.
Oh, well, no. So, yeah, you're right. I have captain Aguero at, pretty negative times in his career. I've always seemed to got the wrong week. But I think with Matt...
It's not a bit of a chance to put Mahrez in, not knowing who's going to start?
Not knowing who's going to start the game? I could be wrong, but my feeling is a lot of people are quite fed up with Man City and Pep's rotation. Okay. So I think I'm going to actually take the punt on Mahrez. Because I wasn't going to, because although he's impressed me, I just assumed, he's going to get dropped again, isn't he? But actually, I'm going to fight against that this time, and a lot of people aren't going to be picking, and I think this could be the time to actually have a Man City player who's not been selected by a lot of people.
Okay, fair enough. Pick number 3 for me is Sebastian Haller of West Ham. Big
I'm a massive fan of Sebastian Haller, yeah.
Well, massive fan of West Ham. Yeah. Palace at home for West Ham this weekend.
Yes.
It's a big game. I just think, I know Palace's form is away from home is good, but I honestly fancy West Ham to be pushing that 7-8 place this year. I really do. I think they're that good. Sebastian Haller started brilliantly. I knew as soon as you bought him it wasn't going to be a flop. He was, I think, Jovic hasn't had the best of starts at Real Madrid, and that's because he hasn't got Haller next to him. Haller provided so much for him, and a lot of people said he's not a goal scorer. Well, I think he is. I think it's hard to be a goal scorer when Luka Jovic is scoring everything. I think he's good value for money. He's not too expensive. I think he'll get goals against Palace. The London Stadium will get rocking. It's a London derby, as I'm sure you've been to before. It'll be rocking. I think they're great at home. They're off the back. Obviously, I know the Oxford result wasn't ideal in the Carabao Cup, whenever that was, but off the back of beating United 2-0, and a couple of other good results, I think you'll be fine. Haller's my pick number 3. That's my three sticks. So just to go over them, that's Timo Pukki, Callum Robinson and Sebastian Haller for me.
Yeah, and I have got, so who is it? It's Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, you've got Emiliano Buendia of Norwich, and finally Riyad Mahrez.
Oh, Man City. Right, should we go on to the more miserable stuff?
Yeah, we move to the blacklist. I'll kick things off.
Because I'm still working out how to pronounce my first one.
Yeah, I'll leave you to work that one. Now, I'm actually kicking things off with, I know a lot of people still have him and are still punting on him, Nicolas Pepe. He has to go.
Yeah, he does.
He's way too expensive to be having in your squad and not doing anything. If you're going to have anyone in the Arsenal team, it's Aubameyang or no one. But even Lacazette's been hit and miss at times. I will accept it, but I think Pepe needs to go. I started the season with him in my squad. I'm not going to lie to you, and he needs to go. He needs to go. I think in their most recent game against Man United, he just showed his stats were horrible. And even watching the game, he was horrible.
Yeah, he was horrible.
Like pass percentage, he completed 70% of his passes. That's poor for a player that costs £72 million. When you've got Daniel James on the other, in the other side, costs 15 million, outperforming him.
Especially when they play each other.
He needs to go.
Yeah, no, I totally back that up. My first one, my missed one's a little bit controversial, and it depends on how many transfers you have. Because if you don't have many transfers left, then don't bother with this one. But it's the Leicester centre half. He's got lovely hair.
He does look like a prince, doesn't he?
He does look like a prince.
Apparently, a really nasty guy though.
Really?
I
think that's a very bold statement.
No, who was it that said it? One of the Leicester players. Oh, it's Chilwell. He said he loves to inflict pain on people.
Really?
Yeah.
Right. Well, soccer.
Yeah.
Whatever. Apologies to
Soyanuku.
If you are watching this, I'm extremely sorry for the pronunciation. Because
I believe it's Soyanuku, but don't hold me to that at all.
If you do have a few transfers left, I would get him out. I think he's been brilliant so far, don't get me wrong. I think he's been an ideal replacement for Harry Maguire. I think he's done fantastically. But he's young. There's a slip-up in him. There's a few slip-ups in him. I think he'll cost you points with defensive errors leading to goals.
He's got Liverpool.
They've also got Liverpool. Don't get me wrong, what Brendan Rodgers has done at Leicester is unbelievable. Since he's come in, I think they'd be third. If the Premier
They've done so well.
They'd be third. They're third on goals scored and least goals conceded. They've done fantastically. However, I think they've got a tough run of fixtures coming up. Liverpool, obviously, first and foremost. You'd fancy that it's the best front three in world football for me.
They are brilliant.
I think you'll struggle to get anything past them to keep them out. Sorry. If I was you, I think maybe give him another year. I think he'll be ready. But I think there's a lot better defenders in the market for the money that you could spend.
Yeah, you're definitely right.
For me, I would leave him out.
So my second miss is also a defender. A lot of people have found him quite popular in fantasy football. I've used him at times. It's Tyrone Mings. Right. Reason being is I don't think he's bad to have in. He has been. I don't think he's a bad choice for the season. I think he will get you points here and there because in terms of clean sheets, I don't think they'll keep loads, but they do occasionally, and he will give man of match performances at times, and he can chip in. He can chip in on the attacking side of things, but I just think. He's not been impressive enough for me to have in the side. And there's actually other players in the Aston Villa squad, if you want Aston Villa players, you could have instead of him. They're right back, I forget his name. No, the other one, Brazilian.
I don't know.
You're going to have to fact check me on this one. But they've got a right back that's been really impressive, and he's cheaper than Mings in the market, chips in with some attacking points. I think he's the one instead to go for instead of Mings. I'm really going to have to check his name, I can't remember.
Get down at him in the comments for that, or tweet us some abuse for him because that's not good enough. I do agree though, I think Mings has been poor this season and I think Villa full stop him, people don't rate him at all. Number 2 for me is my second miss, controversial again slightly, Rui Patricio.
Okay.
He's been very popular because of how well Wolves did last season, and he is a fantastic goalkeeper. But Wolves will struggle this season. They won't go down, they're too good to go down, but with the distraction of Europe, which they do aim to go very far in, I know a few people at Wolves, they aim to go very, very far in. Their priority is not the Premier League, it's staying in the Premier League. So when Man City go to Wolves go to Man City this weekend, I feel very sorry for people like Rui Patricio. They'll have played on Thursday night. I can see nothing other than City battering them. So get Patricio out of your team. He's going to cost you points. He won't keep many clean sheets. I think obviously you saw against Chelsea, he conceded 5, didn't he? So I think if he's in your team, I don't know why he's still in your team, but if he is, he needs to go, I think. So that's my second miss, Rui Patricio. Yeah,
I think finally I'll go with a goalkeeper as well. This was a bit of a toss-up for me. Oh, well, brilliant. This was a bit of a toss-up for me because it was it's Everton. And I know a lot of people, the 2 most popular players I've found at Everton defensively is Luca Digne at left back and you've got Pickford in goal, obviously. One of them needs to go. I've gone for Pickford just because Digne can get you those sort of attacking points. He chips in with...
He loves the goal, doesn't he?
I don't see Everton keeping a lot of clean sheets. They go to Burnley next, away.
Can't see him getting it.
I can't see him keeping a clean sheet. I think Burnley will definitely score at home.
Chris Wood's in
obviously.
He was my number 4 if we'd had.
Yeah, Chris Wood has been really good and he's always cheap. Yeah. And Pickford is still one of your more premium goalkeepers in terms of pricing. He's obviously not right at the top end of things with like De Gea or Lloris, but he's up there and I just think you can do better for the price. I don't think he's worth having in your team. I know people think, he's top class for a lower price. No, go for Kasper Schmeichel.
Yeah, go for Kasper. I'll tell you.
Yeah. Not this week, but after Liverpool. I just don't think Pickford's worth having. I know he's brilliant for England, but at Everton, I just don't see him keeping clean sheets.
People voted with this for fantasy league, and that's not what it's about. My third pick might rattle a few people. I don't know if it'll rattle you. It'll rattle people, I'm sure. The one you want to miss, and do you know what? Just miss him permanently is Hugo Lloris.
Oh, I'm so with you on that.
I've got no time for him. And the mistake he made I think it was last Saturday, was it, against Southampton?
Outrageous.
Ridiculous. If he makes that 0-0 and Spurs lose the game, all eyes on him. Luckily, Spurs gone to win the game.
Yeah.
I don't rate him. I never have. He gets beaten at his near post far too often. He's not consistent enough. He's not commanding in the box. For me, the only reason Spurs have been so good defensively over the last few years is because of Vertonghen and more recently Alvaro.
Oh, 100%.
I don't see anything in Hugo Lloris. How he's a World Cup winning captain, I have no idea.
He made exactly the same mistake in the World Cup final.
He did. I mean, again, if France aren't as good going forward, he's exposed.
This is my problem with the mistake he made, right? If you make that mistake in a World Cup final, literally the pinnacle of football and sport, why would you try the same thing ever again?
Exactly.
How is he not traumatised by that?
So for me,
he's terrible. Get him out your team. Just get him out.
Because Spurs horrible run forward in a minute. I don't see that ending. I think seriously, Hugo Lloris needs to not just get out of the Fantasy Premier League. I think he just needs to go full stop. I'm not a fan of him. I'm not a fan of what he does. I think, but I think in all fairness, I think Spurs are really going to struggle over the next few weeks.
That is big. Hugo Lloris, watch out, because Will Taylor has an agenda.
No, I don't rate him. I think there's a...
I totally agree.
I really genuinely do.
Yeah, I do. There's so many keepers better.
No, but I mean, it's just at Spurs. Gazaniga, I think is better, so yeah.
And there's a talking point. Is Lloris's time at Spurs up?
Yeah, please let us know what you think.
Anyway, to finish things off, obviously, if you've been following us on social media, brilliant. If you haven't yet, no problem, because we have got a competition on there that is still running.
So you should see our social medias.
Yeah,
just around here.
They'll be around here. They'll be in links of any descriptions. Under the Arch Pod on Twitter. Yeah. That's going to be sort of the hub of everything. But anyway, going into the competition, tour of this place.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're offering is 2 free tickets for you to come and have a tour of Wembley Stadium. All you have to do, I think it's different things for different social media.
It's basically what it is.
Just go on our social media, have a look at the rules, the terms and conditions. Enter. We were going to announce a winner's day. We're going to let it run for another week. We're going to give you as much chance as possible to have a crack at this. Get yourself up here. You choose the date. We'll get you a tour around here. And if you want to, we can even meet for a...
Yeah, get onto the Twitter. I think it's retweet. Subscribe to the YouTube.
That's the main thing. And subscribe to the YouTube and then give us a like and a retweet or a share on Facebook.
But anyway, that's all we've got time for today.
Unfortunately,
Just want to say thank you everyone who has listened or even watched. If you're viewing through YouTube, that is brilliant. That's all the time we've got for this week.
I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Please do, send some tweets in, comment down below if you are on YouTube. Just really want to get everyone involved.
Absolutely.
Really.
Let us know what you want to hear next week. That's what we want to know what you want to hear when you're listening to this podcast. So tweet us at Under the Arch Pod or comment down below on the YouTube video. Just let us know what you want to hear. We're more than happy to discuss it. I've been Will Taylor.
Yeah, and I'm Jak Richardson.